Welcome to the Dr. Sarah Experience podcast show, where we talk with some of the most amazing beings who are currently creating and shaping today's culture. And I'm your host, Dr. Sarah. Our guest today, Zada, is an artist, model, influencer, musician, activist, and free spirit, also known as pacifist. She is influenced by love and peace and the protection of all living creatures, making her very open about justice for each individual. Sabs started on Tumblr and Twitter and has been inspired by the beauty she finds in this world and within herself. She hopes to achieve the most subtle level of nirvana so she can go on to teach to her younger demographic through her actions and being that peace is within us and within the nature of this world. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Sab to the show. I'm so excited to have this guest on, as you know already, probably from the introduction. But I'm so happy to welcome to the show Sab. And I know you go by different names too, which I'm sure we'll get into as we start this conversation. But I just want to welcome you to the show. I'm so grateful you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to talk to you and to open up and to discuss different fun things.
Yeah, and that's what I sense the show's all about, that you and I are coming together and really bringing to the world, your audience, people who else, could be joining here, that really a conversation with you to get to know you, maybe even in a way that we haven't seen you before, or who knows what we'll discover in the discussion.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you.
So I wonder, where should we start? We could start what's currently going on for you, or is there anything in particular that you would like to start with the discussion?
Let's see, what do I have? I have a couple things that I recently have been doing. I just did a Skims campaign. And then that was with Kim K. That was fun. It was very
wow.
Cool. I was looking forward to that for so long. And I remember when I got it, I was just so excited. Just the fact that, I was chosen. I was like, oh, this is great. Like, this is someone that, is like, has opened a lot of doors for people that are like, for me, for example, I'm like not one of the tallest models. So it's very cool. It was very fun.
So you were brought in. So what was it like to be part of that?
It was really nice. It was really great, actually. Everyone, like the crew and the other models, everyone on set was just very kind and very like, okay, like we got this. Like they just knew what they were doing. It was very professional. It was really nice to work with them.
You know what? That can make all the difference, right? When you're around kind people and people that are there for a common interest in what you did together and really bringing it in a new way, it's it makes it that much greater.
Absolutely. And I feel like being a part of being one of the faces for Skims was really great because even like, Kim Kardashian, she has been helping so much with freeing people that were wrongly jailed. And, it's really cool to just know that someone that also believes in this, like a lot of similar beliefs, is just, it's cool. It was great.
Well, and that it's contributing to greater and to people that are just requiring it. And isn't it so much fun to be able to be in a place where, that's happening?
Absolutely. It's so great.
And I sense that's what you're being all the time. Like you're natural at it. I have looked at all your amazing work and on like TikTok and Instagram and just the being that you are. I want to acknowledge like what a light you are to the world. And I'm just so like, I always like to acknowledge beings that are willing to be it in the midst of all the heaviness that goes on here. And you're one of those for sure.
I actually really appreciate that because, just like everyone else, like it's not always easy to like, try to see the positive things. I'm sure we all try our hardest. Like I know for me, it's a battle sometimes. It's just one of those things, but it's like, that's what life is. It's always like an uphill thing. It's always uphill. You're always going, and it's always just getting better, and like things get better and lighter. And so like what you're saying is very kind. I really appreciate that.
Oh, wow. Well, and that's what I sense when you're connecting with others. Like, what would you say is one of your favorite modalities? Is it like what venue or what way do you like to connect with, let's say, your audience or your other beings that you like to um, bring things to the world for?
Honestly, so I really do enjoy social media. Since I was younger, I feel like that's how I connected. I was brought up like moving around a lot, so I would move constantly. It was a big thing in my life, just a very consistent thing. So it was nice to get to know people. But whenever I started to use online, like social media, I found it. Um, I it's kind of like, you know how you attract what you are, what you attract almost. I feel like I started to attract people that also like were into the same things as me. That's how my audience became, because we're all into a lot of the same things. We're all into, peace and love, and we're all very into just certain things, or like even colorful things. Like it just makes you feel like, okay, like I feel like I'm in a safe space, and like that's how most people want to feel. So I think whenever I started connecting through social media, like sharing artwork and sharing myself, it kind of became a freeing thing for me almost, where I felt like I felt very seen. I just felt like I was being myself. Honestly, I wasn't thinking really a lot into it. I was just like, oh yeah. And then I talked to people, and I made so many. I think a lot of my almost all of my closest friendships have been through social media.
Wow. And you started out just by being you. You're obviously continuing to be you, but that's like, and you mentioned the art. Tell us a little bit about the art you do.
I love art in so many different forms. I love creating. I like drawing. Recently I've gotten more into drawing and then coloring and that type of stuff, like normal stuff. Before I would kind of do not normal necessarily, but before, and even now still, I've been working on a mural at home that eventually I hope to actually have out, and to have maybe like, because I have so many art pieces, and I love landscape, anything that's kind of fantasy a little bit. That's a
Wow.
big thing for me. I've always been into that, just because we have our imaginations. Why not? If I'm going to create a world that I'm sharing with people, I want it to be something beautiful and something that just feels like so unreal that it is real. Like that you're just like, this is all like, you just feel so kind of like I think the word is enveloped. Like you feel like you're just like, yeah, and captured by it. So that's what all of my art is. Like even music I'm making, the like who I am, the way I carry myself, I try my best to carry like my art, just so, because that's who I am. Yeah.
Like a natural creator of so many things. You're like walking creation. And it's such a, like, as you describe it, like a conscious space of being. I know I do a lot of work with encouraging people to know that they know that they know, and embrace, kind of like you said, envelope into or envelop into choosing it and being it, that we all have that capacity, that if we are clear in a way, we can access it. And it sounds like you found a way to do that, and you're bringing it into the world where people are receiving it and you're giving it. And do you find your creative process to be a certain way? Is it something that just shows up, or how would you describe your process?
I think my process comes from a lot like of emotion, like a lot. Sometimes it's not, like sometimes it genuinely just comes out. Like when I feel my happiest, I just want to work on art and create. um, I just want to work on art and I want to create. And when I'm sad, I also just want to make stuff. I want to create. I want to make music. I want to just like let it out. Like that's my way of like, because I don't really, although I'm better at talking right now because you're actually asking questions, which is helpful. Because normally I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm super introverted, but unless I can be pretty shy, pretty reserved, just like as an individual, most of us are, unless, but usually you can tell with like energy. But I feel like my way of sharing myself just with the greater picture is by adding to the picture, like adding things that are gonna last, and like not saying that I won't, but we all like, I try not to, I don't know, whatever I'm feeling in the moment, I feel like that's the moment and I want to create it. And then it lives in that moment and it's no longer in me. It's in that moment.
Wow. And like you almost bring it in and it has a space of its own now, like a consciousness of its own.
Yeah, it adds a little something. It's like, oh, even if you weren't feeling like great at the time, you look back at it when you are feeling great, you're like, you know what? Like, that's okay. Like, I felt like that. And that shows that I'm human and that I'm a part of this existence. And it makes you feel connected with something.
Yeah, that it's beautiful. Even the things that sometimes that are, let's say, emotional or sad, like in a heavy way, that it's a contribution in its own way. Like it may relate to someone else that is experiencing that, or it opens up for something later to come in as a result of just honoring you in whatever shows up in the moment. I love that. The moment is such a cool space to be in.
Yeah, that's a great space, actually. Like, truthfully, I think you have to be so true to how you feel in moments. But then there's this thing that I read before. I'm trying to remember where it was. I actually think a friend was reading it to me. And it's a book that their mother is, well, their friend's mom is writing. And I was like, okay, like we were reading it, and all to say, like the part was, live in the moment, but also like I think it was kind of, I don't want to say it's darker, but it's more of a logical sense where it's like, hey, the pleasure of a moment could be the regret of a lifetime. But then again, it's also a reverse where it's like, it depends on the scenario. So I like to try to live in like certain moments and I'm like, okay, this feels right, this doesn't. I should create this. This is how I'm gonna let this out. This doesn't need to, like.
Yeah, like kind of checking in, even like with your projects, like, oh, this is now, and this may have to wait, or you
Yeah.
kind of gauge it based on, I like to use the language of light or heavy,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this is light now, I'm going to choose that, or wait, this is heavy, it's now the time, or does that show, is that for another time? I love how you follow the energy. And if we're talking here, it's about energy. And I sense for some of us, me included, and I sense for you, it's our number one language. It's the first language is energy. And
Exactly.
then we have to try to put words to it. And sometimes words can be like, slow us down so much. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Absolutely. If you don't, it's almost like how people say you have to choose your words carefully, or you have to choose it, let it loose, but like still like be conscious of what we're saying, because it's like we don't want to put out, like what we say also is like what we're putting into the universe. And like it's so important to still, like, whether it's in a moment of happiness or hurt, of ego or of like just self, like love, like it all depends like on how we perceive and how we react to things. And I think like a great way of, like, for example, like sometimes if I'm not feeling too great, like I'll want to create something that's just like, yeah, no, like this is just not. Or if I feel amazing, I'm just like, yeah, like I'm gonna create this. Or you just want to live in the moment and just all, like, it depends on the day and like how you feel, because then it feels organic.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And it can be moment to moment. Like one moment it's, oh no. And now it's like, oh yeah, now. Or, but I love how you follow it and how in tune you are. Like you're highly aware of it, which is amazing.
I feel like for most of my life, I think I've been like that. I don't know when it started, but I remember when I was really little, I was always just very like, I don't know. I think like I like to think, I don't usually think I'm actually very in tune, but then when I am thinking about it in like in a grander aspect, I'm like, okay, like I can actually see like where you're coming from, because I feel like even during discussions with people, it can, I forgot where I was going with that actually. It's okay.
No, that's okay. Totally. It is kind of though, like being in the moment of it where you are just following the energy and being intuitive, I sense is where you were what you were touching upon and how you were, maybe your mind may think you're not, but you probably really are. And that you're just in the flow of everything. If consciousness can include everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's
Yeah.
more of like when we're being that energy, it's like anything can show up.
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes. Like, mainly like if you are a very in touch individual or being, it
Yeah.
can show up in ways sometimes where you're like, okay, today I'm just going to take it really slow. Like that's what you're thinking. And then you go
Yeah.
to sleep and it's like, boom, 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 so much going on. I was just trying to have some peaceful rest. This is quite a lot. I don't even know what you're trying to tell me right now, but this is not what I need.
Which brings up a great point that so much of the time we're picking up on energies around us, our people's energy and the world. Sometimes, obviously, this human world can be very linear and have a lot of, I like to use the language drama, trauma to it, being that where a lot of times there are individuals in the world that focus more on problems and possibilities. And when we're around energies like that, it can be very intense and draining. I know that's not exactly what you were talking about, but you also are picking up on other people's energy when it doesn't match with yours too. And you're like, woo, whoa, hold
Yeah.
up.
Oh my God. It's when that happens. And also I'm a Gemini. I don't know.
Oh,
I
love
also
that.
reflect that very much. I'm also like on the cusp of being a Cancer. So I feel like a lot.
Oh,
And so it's like, I feel like a lot of, I'm very into astrology.
okay. Yeah. Say more about it.
I love it. It's the greatest. It's very helpful in, I don't want to say deciphering anything because we're not necessarily here to figure anything out, but we're here to be. But it helps, at least me personally, it helps me be in a way that I understand myself better. So then I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna think about how I would like. I think the reason I bring this up is because how you were saying like you pick up on other people's energies almost, you know, and you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, like what do I do with this, you know, like I feel that I can sense that this person's feeling this way because I'm reflecting it in a way. And I'm like, why am I? And you're like, oh, okay, everything's fine. And it's almost like a duty to just like soothe them and for all of us to just be okay. And at least that's the way I see it sometimes, or I try to. Or like
Yeah.
if I'm picking up energy, I'm like, okay, am I okay? I feel
Mm.
pretty good. I've had a good day. What's going on? Is it someone else? I'm like, maybe it's not them. And then thinking about all the people in my life that I love. And I'm like, what's going on in their lives? What if they told me? And then just picking up on cues. It's interesting.
Amazing. And that's it right there, that you're so in tune to not only your own space, you check in with you, and then you're like, oh, is it this? Like you go into question, and then you almost stay free of whatever the heavy energy is of it, so that you can then be like a contribution to them. And or then it's at least not as heavy for you, so you can maintain what I call like being the light in the midst of when even heaviness or other people's worlds, where we can be kind of have their back rather than jump into the heaviness with them. And it sounds
Yeah.
like you're just kind of checking in with you and others to kind of get a gauge on it.
Yeah, because sometimes, most of the time, we realize that it's not even about us. Like when other emotions, it's not even about us. It's just a reflection of others and how they feel and like what's going on in their lives and how like something that they feel off about. And like half of the time, the things that we worry about, they're like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
and even if it is, that's when you communicate. And that's why like it's good for that, you know, like I think that's also why I love social media because I feel like as a collective we can sense each other and like we can feel the energy because you'll see a small thing, you're like, oh, I can see where that's about to go, and like then a week later you're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, there's protests going on to free Palestine, and you start learning more, and I think it helps raise awareness. Like I think that's another thing I've always liked about social media, that it just helps raise awareness.
Yeah.
So we're
Well,
all
and you're being a conduit of that, and that's such a gift to people, that and you're willing to see it, and then you're conveying that. And I love that approach too, where we're meant to be the difference of it, and see it, and be an activist towards it without going into the limitation of it.
yeah.
So I sense that's what you're being.
It's really nice. It's great.
Mm.
Sometimes, no, actually, it's amazing. It's such a blessing. You know, it always depends on just how you look at things. And like, I think when you look at it from a sense of like love and light, or you try to look at it from that way, because it's not always easy. But when you know that you're actively trying to, you know, sit with it, sit with the emotion, because half of the time the things that go on through our mind, that's not us. It's just like what we like, it's a projection and we're okay. It's just it'll pass. It's something that's going on, you know, and like we can sense it. I feel that you're also very similar, where you can feel it and you're just like, okay, like what's going on, what's happening, what's the truth, basically.
Yes. Oh, and I love that question. What's the truth? Because a lot of times when we ask that question, we get a clear on what is the truth and what's not the truth. We're kind of wired that way to tune in. And the conversation about what you're speaking to regarding other people's energies not being our own, and it's not a good or bad thing, but those of us like energy beings primarily will pick up on those. And in fact, there's a statistic that almost 98, if not 100% of our own or of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions actually don't belong to us.
Yeah.
We're picking them up off of other people, places, things, events, and you're so like onto it in the way where you're like observing it, perceiving it, and now you're like angling to, okay, what am I gonna do to this? I sense you sparkle, like sprinkle magic. That's what
A
I
little
see.
bit of pixie dust. You're like, what can I add to this? That like either what I've noticed is sometimes like when I was younger, I didn't see it the same way. I was more like, okay, like clearly there's an issue, so should I let them like, solve this? And I was like, no, like I feel like I should contribute. But now I'm like, okay, now I know how to contribute in a better way where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna like, I don't know actually how to explain that. It didn't make too much sense.
Oh, it did to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great. It's like, when you're younger and you're just like, okay, like it's kind of like that saying about like don't poke a bear. Like if you're poking at something, you're just like, well, why, what's up? And now I think it's more like less of a question, more of a feeling. More of like, okay, like I feel good. I feel leveled a little.
Yeah. Yep. And it's like when you even expressed it, it's like the energy goes this way, it like softens, melts into, from which then there's more space to things move faster, but in a way that there's more ease. Because I sense we're actually meant to function in ease, even in the midst of insanity.
Yeah, actually, I agree. When I was thrown into, at least when I was younger, growing up, I feel like I was kind of put into a lot of those situations where it kind of, in a weird way, I do believe it helped me personally, like navigate with ease through life. Like, I think when you look at things from a perspective where it's like, okay, like, how can I learn from this and grow from this rather than let it, like, I think it helps a lot of, like, not just younger, but anyone that's really going through something. It really just helps, like, to just at least be that, like, calmness, to be that, like, it's okay, like everything's fine. Hope everyone's having a good day. Here's some pretty colors. Because when we're little, that's all we want. We're just like, oh, what's this? And like the drama, all the extra stuff, that's just noise. That's just stuff that like people think will entertain them, but that's just like a temporary thing. It doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful way of putting it, that you are bringing in more space of ease in the midst of all this kind of revved up energy. And that's where we kind of have it backwards in this reality, where we're meant to go faster when actually less is more. And that's what you're bringing: less, more space, more ease, and being an invitation for people to join you, keeping it like very simple and light and but genuine. Like I can tell this about you, just so genuine and just like willing to be that energy for people. And yeah, I'm lit up from it, actually.
Exactly. You look lit up. You're like a light.
Oh, thank you. It's so sweet. Well, and as we're having this conversation, it's like it's rare to have conversations like this in the world, where you can talk in a way that is in the discovery of something greater rather than a limitation. And we're meant to see this world and get clear on it. And I would love to hear a little bit of some of what things you're passionate about, but then we're also meant to have conversations where we can be in the acknowledgement and the honoring and the awareness and choice and possibilities. And that's where we're going with this. So it excites me.
It's like, it's what goes through my mind a lot. And for some reason, I wasn't actually thinking about it too much until like I felt kind of drawn to talk about this while you were asking. I was like, oh, like, how like the conversation just flows and we're like, yeah, like this is actually a good point. Like it just feels right. Sometimes I think like it's that phrase, it's like divine intervention, where it's like, oh, it's like time to like, oh, hey, like these two seem like they would enjoy this.
Yes. And how the universe contributes and like, oh, now's the time. And literally how we jumped on here together. It was like, oh, yep, now's the time. We're both like, okay.
Yeah, we're like, okay, hey. Nice to
Yes.
see you.
Do you find that's kind of how then you navigate what you are creating? Or I know you mentioned, just a segue here a second, like with music, what is it that you create and what does that look like for you with music?
So music, man, music has helped me through, I want to say almost everything in my life. Also silence, but then when music fills it, beautiful music. I love classical music. I love just music. I love it. So ever since I was little, I wanted to create music because I felt that that's a pathway into, that's how you can create things, feelings. That's how you almost, the fastest way to feel or learn a feel. I don't know how to explain it the best, but to embody a feeling, basically.
Yeah.
That's what music does. And so when I'm creating music, I feel like I'm in a space that's safe, a space that's bubbly, or whatever feeling I'm feeling, or whatever feeling I want to contribute, portray. And so when I do create music, I'm like, okay, like this feels right. Sometimes it doesn't feel right, and that could go on for a while. But when it does feel right, you're just like, yes, I have so many ideas, so many different things that are going on in my mind that it's such a beautiful instrument to you. It's a beautiful medium as an artist in all different ways, you know. So my music is very, I want to say mellow, or like I want it to feel like a soft space. Like before I was like, oh, a cloud, but I'm like, no, I want it to feel like a soft space, something real, something you can listen to and be like, okay, like I'm just gonna listen to this. Like when you listen to stuff and you're not stuff, when you listen to music and you're just like, this is how I feel, you know, like I don't know how to explain it, but maybe I hope I'm doing it justice.
Yeah, you are. Like it's a sensing and it's a being with it. Like it's a type of wavelength that resonates beyond even again the words. Like, and you're capturing it as you're saying it. I just sense it with you.
It's great. I love creating music. I think when the way that we listen to music as like just as beings is incredible, because we all perceive it so differently. Like every single person, from one ear to the other ear to another individual, it just, we perceive it differently from one time in our lives to another time. We're like, wow, like I hear it differently now. And
Yeah.
a mute song, it's out and it's just there, and you're like, wow, like this is part of the world. There's so many songs we haven't heard, so many songs yet to be made, and I'm so excited to be contributing to that, you know. And like it's beautiful. Like I think it's one of the best things about being on this earth. I think like being able to create art, to have the abilities, the blessings to even be able to do this and to be a part of art and to be art. Just, you know, life imitates art, just like art imitates life, and art in all forms. So when I speak of music, I'm just like, that inspires so much. It inspires a lot of my work, and then my work inspires, or other work inspires music. Like it just all goes hand in hand. It's so beautiful. Like it just makes you feel more connected with everything and everyone, and makes you feel like, just, I think as people, we just want to be seen and know that, hey, I am here. Like, oh, I am here. You know, like we go through our days just watching stuff and we're like, oh yeah, like cool. But then when you feel like, I don't know, music, it's just great.
Well, and you tapped into so many like phenomenal pieces about it. Like, oh, and I just was so enjoying as you kept going with it. I'm like, oh, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. And how you described it, like this weaving of all the different art forms and like it coming together and creating like we mentioned earlier, like a consciousness of its own, just like your artwork. It's like as music art, it's like takes on this beautiful space and a consciousness. And then every time you hear it, you're like, wow, I didn't catch that before. Or it hits you in a moment where you receive something different than then inspires you to create something else. Or it just contributes on so many levels, I hear.
It's amazing. It's the best thing, because I think my favorite way of creating music when it comes to music is like a blank space. Like you almost enter this like bubble and you're just like, okay, I'm here now and I'm ready to, you either let go. Like when I say let go, you release everything and it's either a clear space where you're like, okay, this, like suddenly everything's kind of like, it's like when you're creating a word web or like a ideal web, when you're making like a book, when you're little in like reading class, and then there's like little lines, you're like, oh, okay, like that idea, and then you're like, oh, that, like, it just comes to you. It's beautiful. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just the most great, it's like such a beautiful medium, like to watch not just myself, but to watch people that I love like create music, to hear music from people you know and care about. Like you just feel a lot more connected to them because you're like, oh, I didn't even know that, I didn't know you felt like that, like, or I didn't know you could feel like that. Or when you share something, it's just very deep. It's very nice.
So, and you're receiving it from them in the way that they're creating it. And that's a whole nother space that you're being with, which is, wow. I love how you described it all. And it's almost like you're just willing to follow whatever shows up. And what's so amazing about you is that you're not only receiving it, but you're actualizing it. You know, a lot of times we talk about manifesting, which is, it definitely has its space, but you're actually bringing it into existence.
I think that's so important. Like, because not just important, but like, I think what's so cool about the creating process is the creating process. Cause then you're throwing it together and the next thing you know, it's there and you're like, oh my God, like that was nothing. That was a blank canvas before. That was not in the atmosphere. Now it's a song. And like, it's the craziest thing because it could be nothing. It could be absolutely nothing. That's okay. Sometimes some things are like, you know what? Like that doesn't seem like the most positive. I'm gonna leave it as nothing. But sometimes, you know, you just like you need the balance. Sometimes like, you know what? Yeah, like I'm gonna make that into something. It's like the Beatles, you know, take a sad song and make it better.
Oh.
It's kind of like that. Like it's just very give and take. And so I think when it comes to just art, like I love art. I'm a big fan. I think it's the most interesting thing because it was nothing before. And then a life had to go through life just to make that. And they chose that, you know, they chose a path where they're like, yes, like I'm just going to do this. And then like, we all have so many questions because it makes us feel things and you don't know why, but you're really like connected with this.
Wow. I love that. And has there been a piece of art or music or anything in your creation where you're like, okay, I'm going to just do it and go for it and take the leap and put it out there in the world, even though it may create a little bit of a ruckus or it's like, could be even a little uncomfortable for you, but I'm going to do it anyway?
Yes. Actually, whenever I worked, there's certain brands that it took me a while to like really like get comfortable, just like also as a woman, as a person. Like when I've done modeling jobs for brands that are a little bit more revealing, I was like, oh, it's nothing crazy, but I was just like, oh, okay, like that was something that I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? No matter what, like I know that I'm a human being at the end of the day, and I'm a soul. And if anything, if I'm gonna give anything out to the world, I want like my younger audience to know that it's not dirty. Whatever they do is for them always, and no one can take that away from them. Whatever they choose to do for themselves, and like whatever helps them be their most divine self, then that's you know, for them to decide. And I just want that to be like, that's always been a big thing for me, that I just want like just how I would want myself to feel safe. I always want my audience to feel safe. And I think the best way to do that is by being ourselves. So when I have put out my music, actually, like I put it out on SoundCloud. I put my art out before, which is crazy for me because I don't really share my work just because I get very nervous. Just because, not nervousness, it's such a private thing for me. It's like I feel that I get better every day, yet somehow I'm always like, no, this came from my heart, it's mine, but you know, we have to share. But yeah.
I hear you open yourself up to be a way to describe it as vulnerable. And also a space of knowing it's going to create greater, even though it's uncomfortable. And that's a lot of times what change is. But if we do change by choice, kind of like you're choosing and doing it this way, that you're aware of like, okay, you're just going to go with it and do it and be it. And I love the message to your audience of like, just staying true to themselves, and there's nothing that is wrong with them or anything they choose that's right for them. You're such a support of that. Like you have their back, really. I hear
I
that.
have your back.
I have your back.
Like I just
You
want them to
do.
be safe. Like that's so important. Like in love generally, we just want to feel safe and know that we're okay and that we're healthy. Even if like we're like, oh hey, I don't agree with that. Hey, this like we just always want to feel safe.
Yeah.
That's what's important. And like the moment you don't feel safe, like in just being yourself, when it comes to the littlest things, like things that in schools, it's like, oh, you can't show your shoulders. It's like, well, then you don't feel safe. You're like, why? I felt like I looked nice, like it's that type of thing. It's like, I want everyone to feel safe and just like who they are and like their bodies and like whatever they like, whatever they care about, like that's theirs, as long as you're not harming another soul. Like, I think that's important to just recognize as long as,
Yeah. And what you're saying too is really about like a no judgment zone.
Yeah.
Like, and points of view, we all can have our own point of view. And I'm aware of this, and tell me if you resonate with this. If everyone in the world just had a point of view and an interesting point of view of other people's point of view, even their own point of view, we wouldn't be fighting. We wouldn't be in wars. We wouldn't be in this conclusionary space where we have to convince other people to be something they're not. We would be here to contribute, to kind of be here together in a way that's, hey, I'm going to support you as you support me, and we're all on the same team.
Yeah, exactly. I fully agree with that. Like, we're all on the same team. So the moment we start like separating and being like, no, that's wrong because I just don't like it. I'm not even going to try to look at it or think about it. That's just, nope. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. But like, it also takes that understanding. Sometimes like, because that happened to me a lot. And I was like, okay, like growing up, I was just like, that's okay. Like, I'll be patient with you because I know maybe like it's just not the right time sometimes, and everything happens for a reason. So like that's how you know everything's going to be okay.
Yes. And
that's how I think sometimes.
What was that last part?
Well, that's just how I think sometimes. Like, some people are like, oh no, everything doesn't happen for a reason, but I think it all just depends on how you view things and how you were, how everyone's raised.
Yeah, absolutely. And that you come from a space of that naturally, and then you're seeing it sometimes in the world. And it's kind of like when I'm aware of people doing judgment and doing interesting point of view, I'll even respond with like, wow, thank you so much for your judgment, even of me or whatever it is. And I'll be like even acknowledging it. And usually I'll send kindness, or I'll be in a way that then there's nowhere for them to go with it. So there's almost a lot of times when I call it these individuals in the world that function more linear, who are more black and white, who tend to judge others and just need to be right. Those types. And then there's the types kind of like us, where we're like, oh, you know what? It's okay to have your point of view, whatever you be it, be everything, but those,
as long as people share it,
Yes. And then these other types are the ones that are more likely to accuse you of what they're doing, like, oh, like judge you. And really, they're the ones being what they're saying you are, the other person is, or whatever it is. So it's really when you follow the energy on something, it allows us, again, like you said, how much we're picking up on everyone else's energy all the time, allows us to stay out of that heavy space.
Yeah.
How have you handled it? Have you noticed, of course, being as beautiful and like effervescent and light that you are, I'm sure there's probably people out there that want to try to say like any kind of haters or those kind of things. Have you experienced that at all?
I have definitely experienced it in a way. Like, I remember actually when I was younger, I'd experienced it more, but I think I learned how to deal with it in a different way because I didn't know what to expect from the world when I went to college. I didn't know what to expect. And I was like, okay, this is what they call the real world, and then there's social media, and like that's still the real world. All of it's very real. So the way I would think about it was like, okay, if, you know, how do I put it? If people are going to take the time out of their day to say something like this to me, even if it hurts sometimes, I have to remind myself that, I don't know what they're going through. I don't know why they're feeling this way. There's never, it's not okay. It doesn't make it okay, but it just puts it into perspective for myself. So I can be like, okay, like, do I need to acknowledge this? Do I need to say it? Because in reality, like, they probably just want to feel acknowledged, and don't acknowledge the hate. If someone can't touch you without giving you love, then they're no longer a problem. They can't reach you. Like, for me, at least now, I try my best to be reached at love. That's what I feel is important, because then you attract that. You don't attract the extra stuff, the stuff that you don't need in your space. Especially, like, I think, though life is an uphill battle, it's still something to enjoy. And I feel like I'm at a place where I'm like, I want to just fully enjoy and to be here and to be present and to love as much as possible. So when it comes to, so when I'm in a space like that where, or like when I get messages online, I'm just like, okay, this has nothing to do with me. And if it does, like, if it was something uplifting or helpful criticism, then I would be more, it's not always bad. It's just, sometimes it doesn't even have to do with me, and I have to remember that.
Yeah, well, you do an amazing job of being able to hold a space for that. And I sense too, because you're willing to be the love, the energy of it, then their words won't get to you because they don't exist. Like, because you don't believe that about yourself. So a lot of times if we judge ourselves, then we're more, and we haven't gotten clear on that, or maybe grown from it, however we want to describe it, then we're likely to take what people say more like literally, or for true to form. And it's, for you, that's not in your existence, which I think is, I'm just like, I have no words for it either.
I've definitely had my moments in the past, and like, I still feel those feelings sometimes, but not like the feelings that like I've received, because usually that doesn't help and just kind of keeps it there, and that's not fair to ourselves. It's like the saying that's about usually when you're angry at someone and you just hold that in instead of like saying anything, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like, now it's yours, because you're holding it. So it's like, there's no point, just let it go.
Let it go, just flow it out, move it out, and bye-bye. Thank you, next, I like to say. Is there anything that is coming up for you that you are, in terms of future creations, or things that are, or something maybe in the future you desire to create, like anything related to things coming up for you? Like what's happening with that?
So I've been working on pieces, because I'm into a lot of art. So fashion is part of that. I'm working on my own pieces. Eventually, I hope to start, sharing things, like starting small with like a brand, which I've been working on, but I haven't shared the name just yet.
Oh, that's exciting.
Very excited. Maybe one day we'll have another talk and I'll, share the name.
Oh, I would love that.
And then I also have music coming out, but I have so much music that I've just been waiting to share. And I'm thinking it's May, by December, hopefully, to really have like an EP put together. But maybe sooner. I would love it if it was sooner. But Mercury's about to go into retrograde, so I'm trying not to like start any new projects at the moment. And then I want to. What else? I'd like to. What else have I been working? I've been working on quite a lot of stuff. I definitely am going to start selling a bunch of art pieces. I just want it to be done really beautifully. So I've been very patient with myself. And a lot of the stuff is just not out yet, because I've just been waiting for the right time.
Yeah.
So, but I have been working a lot and just getting stuff together. And also, I just worked on a commercial that's going to be shared in Japan and on social medias, and it's for a brand called Goshi.
Wow. Can you say anything more about it?
It should be out on like Wednesday or Thursday.
Wow.
Very excited for that. It came out amazing. We started working on it back in March, and it's great. I am so excited. There's so much to share just generally because so much is coming out. I love June. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what I have been working on for a moment. And then I'm going to really just like focus in on it whenever the moment's right and the times are right.
Well, and this is a great testament to what we were talking about earlier about following like the piece has its time to when it wants to launch into the world, or kind of like you birthing it into the world. It's all the preparation for it to come in, and it is definitely a process.
Yeah.
And I love how you follow that. And it's really an honoring too, not just to put stuff out there. It's like you're waiting and just gauging it, and like, wow, really, really cool.
I have to be patient.
Yes.
It helps.
Oh, I love that. And now I know we haven't really talked about this, although this may be part of it, but I know you go by the name like on social media, pacifist. Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Of course. So one of the main reasons for that is I'm a pacifist and my name is Sabrina. So I thought a fun play would be like pacifist. Also, I love the letter P. It's in a lot of really cute words like pink, pacifist, purple, Play-Doh, passengers, like we're all passengers, and like, you know, it's just so many different things. So it's nice. I like a lot of words that start with P. What else? Yeah, when I was younger, I came up with that and I was just holding on to it. I used to come up with just like different ways to write my name because I was like, what could this mean? Like, why did they give me this name? Like, I didn't understand. I didn't have anyone to really ask. And I was like, so like, I would try to connect the dots and just try to make it make sense. Yeah, I had a very interesting childhood. So I was just constantly doing some self-discovery. You know, I was just like, okay, what can I learn about myself that I know right now, like my birthday? So I got into astrology at such a young age, and that also helped with coming up with pacifists and planets. You know, like that was another word.
Yes.
Yeah. So I go by pacifist, and then I usually just go by Sabs, Zada, because just because I like going by that. But my name is Sabrina, and that's usually, you know, that's my first name. But you know, I don't know. I always thought names were weird, but they were pretty. I liked my name, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like how you created from it to make it your own in all these different ways, because you're not just one name. You're not just one energy. So everything I sense you're being and creating, it's like has this like magical, like light, real, genuine, and just like all the different aspects of what we're showing up here to be, like a combination of it all. And I love how you're dabbling in it and bringing it all through in all the different ways. It's like we aren't just one thing. we're not one career. We're not one color. We're not one.
Everything, and we're nothing at once. We're like such a multitude of beings. It's just crammed into like this beautiful, all of our beautiful, you know, like this is us. Like it's great.
I love that. And I notice even the crystal you have on, that's gorgeous.
Thank you. It's an aura quartz.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought it was what's it called? I thought it was a clear quartz. And then I saw the shine, a little shimmer whenever I was washing it. And I was like, oh, you are an aura quartz. I would have never thought, but it made more sense.
You see it in the right light and it reveals itself.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it's beautiful.
That is wow. So great. And I love just the areas that you dabble in. I can relate because I've done and explored everything in terms of different approaches, even because I'm a clinical psychologist, but I've dabbled in so many different approaches through the years, like the numerology or zodiac is always fun. And now it's like kind of coming from a conscious space, which includes everything. I just dabble in everything and be it all, whatever resonates light. And I sense you kind of do the same thing. So it's kind of just like having a toolbox of possibilities of whatever you choose every day. If it's because you have so many platforms that you get to play on, which is a P word, play.
Yeah, play. Love it. I think those are like good. It's helpful. I think it's nice. I think we're, at least the way I saw it when I was like, ever since I was little, was just like, if this is what I'm given to start with, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see what I can do. This is my name, cool. I'm gonna mess with it. Let's see what happens. And then this is my hair. I'm gonna dye it. I'm gonna have some fun with this because it feels right, to just test the waters there, and then just keep going. And then knowing that you can trust yourself, makes you think like, okay, like I trust myself because I can do this. So I'm gonna try something like on a canvas. I'm gonna try something on a song. Like, yeah, it's just nice. It expands it, and then you're like, I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna do this. Like,
wow, beautiful. And it's like the core of your being is always there, and now anything is possible, and you're bringing it into creation in all the different ways and playing with it and being it. And I just love you being in the question, because a lot of times when we ask a question, like even a what question, it brings it into like, what is this? What am I noticing? It's almost a space of wonder, and you never know what's going to show up, and when you're willing to be whatever that is. And I love the different aspects of you and the coloring your hair and all that kind of thing. It's just, wow. And what an inspiration that is for others. And I sense your, I don't know, however we want to describe them, your fan base, your followers, the other amazing beings out there who are resonating with you. They're receiving it. And it's really, wow.
That makes me very happy. It makes me feel very connected and loved, to be honest. And I feel like it's like a family. It's really nice. I love it. I think of them as like my friends, honestly. Like, I'm like, this is really nice. Like, I don't really talk to anyone a lot, like, except for like even here and there. I'm like more just because I like to know how people are doing. So I'm like, usually I'm chilling. So I'm like, oh, well, this is what I learned about today. But it's nice to like be able to have them to talk to and to see there's people that care, and it's beautiful. It makes me feel very welcome here in this space.
Wow. And it keeps moving and going, and just living in that curiosity is just such a cool space to be. And I'm just so grateful that you came on today. I do have another question. If there's anything that you would like to, I know you have already wonderfully, but share with your audience or anyone that's watching the show about something maybe that resonates with you that they would like to receive, or any words of wisdom, or is there anything you would like to share?
It's so sweet of you to ask. If you haven't heard it today, you are loved, and someone is proud of you. I'm someone, and keep doing good things, because it does come back to you. And, just always find stillness, and then know that it will pass. Whatever it is, it'll pass, and you'll be better for it. Like, you'll be okay. And trust me, like, I've been in a space where I didn't think I would be okay, and I'm here today, and I'm alive, and I'm well, and I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm loved, and I can love. And that's a blessing to just wake up today and to have the sky out. Like, everything's going to be okay. There was times when I didn't think I'd see the sun, and now here I am, the sun's beaming down. Just keep going, like, and try to stay positive, because you can do this. And, don't let anyone take that from you.
Oh, I love that. Like, this idea of never give in, never quit, never stop.
Yeah.
You're being it, and what an invitation to others. And I'm, again, so grateful for you coming on the show today. I would love to have you back on if you'd like to come back and have some more fun of there's so much we can continue to talk about. There's so much available, and I wonder what else is possible. But I just, again, thank you for being you.
Thank you so much for having me, and for being you, and being so easy to talk to, and so beautiful and kind and receiving, and also opening up and making this easy for me as well. And yeah, thank you for starting this and everything. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. And be sure to join us next time for more conversations and insights into some of your favorite influencers. Now, don't forget to join me, Dr. Sarah, anywhere I'm on social media. And always, always, always remember that I have your back.